So you guys all settled in?
Yeah, got settled in. Start tomorrow morning, so going to be exciting. So I
Yeah.
haven't done I've done a lot of different programs. Haven't done Women to Warrior, so I'm kind of stoked about that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be exciting, and just the whole. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the concept behind it, but it's kind of like the Couch to 5K program, except for in MMA. So
Mm-hmm.
they can't have any kind of fight in their background. They can't have any like boxing, none of that stuff. They have to be just like a fresh newbie that just wants to train like a fighter for 12 weeks and then have a match at the end of the 12 weeks. So it's pretty cool, you know.
Yeah,
And some of the
I've heard a little bit about it over the past couple years. That's pretty cool that they do. Is that put on specifically by SBG?
Yeah. So it's put on by SPG. Kavanaugh. Let me shut this thing. Kavanaugh, Conor McGregor's coach, is
Uh-huh.
is kind of one of the main guys behind it. And so they have like a huge program going now. Scott Viscomi is the guy in the States that kind of heads it up over here. So it's really cool. It's primarily been SPG, but it's starting to branch out to other places now too.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
just really cool. It's like, it's kind of like people need that crucible. People need that rite of passage, so to speak, and
mm-hmm.
this gives them that they might not have got in other places if they don't have a military background or they never competed, in any kind of contact sport. They never really had that feeling of just sucking it up and driving on. Like football two-a-days or wrestling two-a-days, that kind of thing. So it gives them gives them that experience.
Yeah.
So I mean, props to them. I don't know if I'd want to experience it at 40 years old, but if
Yeah.
it was the first time, I mean, I do it now. I train like 6 hours a day, but I've been doing it my whole life.
I was gonna say you've been doing it since the early '90s?
Yeah. So I can't imagine though being like brand new to this whole thing and jumping into two-a-days and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they do it, man. Props
I,
to them.
I started jujitsu at 30, so not too far off from 40, and it was a
Yeah, yeah.
big learning experience for me. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's like, what the heck? I
Yeah.
remember I wrestled ever since I was a little kid, and then that's how I found jujitsu because I didn't have anything to do, um, anything close to wrestling. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like once you're in your mid 20s, if you're not a champion, if you're not an Olympian, what are you gonna do?
Mhm.
So I found jujitsu, and I just remember sitting in my car thinking, "There's nothing gentle about this art." Like my face is hurting, my neck's hurting, man. I got gi rash all over me, from getting choked out, and it was in Miami, so it's even more miserable. If
Yeah.
you can imagine, wearing a gi in that kind of heat and humidity. It
Yeah, I
just,
can't imagine.
yeah. I don't know why I did it, but I did it.
Yeah.
Stuck with it. Thank God. Kept me out
Yeah,
of
it's
trouble.
so yeah, I first found out about you on Andy Stumps podcast, Cleared Hot.
Oh,
I think
cool.
the first
Yeah.
time you were on there, and I've been following you online ever since. You were pretty
Oh, cool, man.
interesting dude, so it's pretty cool to be able to sit here and talk with you.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Yeah, I was just talking to Andy today about his podcast. So that dude's busy.
Dude,
And
his podcast has become one of my favorites.
yeah, it really is. Like I like everything, like the Full Auto Fridays that he
Yeah.
does, and I like all of them, man. He has some really cool guests on, and he's a really well-rounded dude,
It seems like
and
he's putting more attention into that podcast over since the whole COVID stuff has happened.
because it killed a lot of stuff that he was doing.
I'm
He
sure.
does a lot of public speaking and that kind of thing,
Hmm.
and COVID shut all that down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, well, you take a guy like that that's got a high drive, and he's going to put it into something. So,
Yeah.
thankfully he put it into his podcast, and
Yeah, it's gotten better. I
yeah,
mean, that's probably my number one right now that I listen. I make sure I listen every week because you can tell he's put a lot more work into it because it's gotten so much better, especially with the guests he's bringing on and and all that.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like it better than Rogan actually. So
I'm getting to that same point too. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah. Like
I'm sure
I
that's where
still like.
I
What's
was going
that?
to say, I'm sure that's where most people probably found out about him was on Rogan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm starting to like it more, than Rogan, or not starting to. I do like it more than Rogan. It's just, sometimes with some of the subject, material stuff on Rogan, I just kind of get lost.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I'm the same with Kevin here. He enjoys like when Rogan brings on like the in-depth scientific. Kevin's a major in what?
No, astrophysics.
Astrophysics. So
oh, holy cow!
he
So you're a
enjoys all
rocket
that stuff.
scientist.
I'm in over my head when I'm hearing it, but he enjoys that
No, I love
stuff.
it. I love it. And like he's had on 2 different alien podcasts this week, right? One was the abduction, the other one was about Umamayu. That was, which I haven't seen because I don't have fucking Spotify. Like I refuse. I'm like, fuck Spotify, dude. Like
Yeah, I won't. Yeah, I won't do Spotify.
No.
So
yeah,
not gonna do it.
That's
Not
where I
gonna
listen
do it.
now. I listen to most of mine on Spotify now, but it's Rogan went right over to Spotify, and that's the only place you can get it. I wonder if he lost any viewers. I doubt it. He's probably
plus like I have a pretty new Samsung nice TV, and with the Spotify app on it, you can't watch video.
Oh, I thought you're supposed to be able to.
No, not even on those. Like you have to do it through like iPad, iPhone,
Oh, wow.
whatever. I was like, I kind of like the video because I don't know.
Yeah,
I do, but
yeah, I've never been a big video watcher for podcasts. I listen to usually just the audio.
Yeah,
but a lot of people like the video. We actually just started doing video for this 2 episodes ago, and we're putting the video up, and it's getting some views, which is cool. I don't know if I want my ugly mug being out there for everybody to see, but it is.
Yeah, I think it's like you said. Some people like the video and appreciate the video, and the combination. I like being able to just listen to podcasts. I listen to them when I run, and because if I listen to music, I don't know about you guys, but if I listen to music while I run, I tend to meter myself up and down with the music. So the pace of the music kind of messes me all up. I've been trying for the last year to do more heart rate type training. So paying attention to my heart rate, make sure I'm staying in different zones and stuff. And so the way around that was I had to just listen to a podcast, because then it's just someone talking. It's interesting, and there's no tempo. There's nothing that's gonna like get in my head and make me start running faster.
I feel like I'd be breathing.
The next thing you know, I'm sprinting. Like, darn it.
No, I do that last time. I put the headphones in and I was going too fast, too hot out of the gate, and I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. I was like, fuck. Like, I'm half a mile from the house already. Like, I gotta like turn around and walk for a little bit. Inside like turning music down and start pacing myself for the other 2 miles, totally feel you.
So I kind of, there's a lot I want to talk to you about. Like I said, I heard you on Cleared Hot and thought you were a super interesting dude. So you were a police officer for how long?
Yeah, so 22 years. Damn. So I spent 22 years, in a pretty decent sized city, northwest of Chicago, and pretty varied. Fortunately, pretty varied career. I was able to bounce around a lot and work in numerous special divisions, and and then I spent another couple years working part-time after I retired in 2018, and then I spent the last couple years working part-time for a really cool chief. It's a small town in northwest Illinois, and it's out in the country, so it's kind of cool. And the chief there is super awesome. He's just a good dude and leads from the front, which to me, that's always kind of an oxymoron, right? Or a contradiction to say lead from the front, because that should be just a given, right? But he's definitely one of those dudes, if he's telling you to do something, he's doing it too. So it's real cool to work for him. So 22 years.
Yeah, I wonder, like, nowadays, I wonder if people are even wanting to be cops with like the scrutiny they're under nowadays. It's insane.
Yeah, they are. I've got a lot of guys that train with me that want to get into the field and into the profession, and they do. And there's like a side of me that wants to tell them not to. Like, hey, if you want to serve the community, go be a firefighter. Go do something working within the community that doesn't put you in the spotlight like being an officer would.
Mm.
But at the same time, I kind of know that drive, and I know that I'm not going to talk them out of it,
No.
and but it is difficult right now, especially you have a younger guy. All the guys that I talked to and everybody that I went to the academy with, everybody had the same thing. Like, no, I never once heard anybody say, I want to be the police because I want to drive fast and shoot guns. I mean, you know what I mean? If they or whatever, but for the most part, guys get into it and gals get into it because they want to help people. Like they want to be that person in somebody's time of need that steps up and stands in the gap, and they want to do that. And so it's hard to tell somebody who has that drive to serve not to do that.
Mm.
But it's hard. It's hard right now. There's a lot of scrutiny, and there's two sides to that, right? The one side is there's scrutiny because there's been issues, but then the other side of that is the issues have been kind of blown out of proportion in comparison. If you have hundreds of thousands of contacts with the police every single day, and then of those hundreds of thousands of contacts and some involve use of force, you have like a 0.02% that are excessive or unnecessary. Is it really an entire profession that needs to be indicted? That's kind of what how I look at it. I mean, if doctors have a greater rate of error or even ethical issues, or dentists or priests or whatever it is, or even like the mail carrier, there was a scandal recently where these mail carriers it's too hard to deliver the mail. So this guy was just piling it all in a garage somewhere,
Yeah.
and so that way he could come back in with an empty truck. But that doesn't indict everybody in the profession. That just indicts that knucklehead. And so I think there's that part of it too. Like, yeah, man, I welcome the scrutiny. I have no problem with scrutiny because I'm not doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you see me have to arrest somebody and have to use force to arrest them, and the force wasn't what you think it should be because this person watches Steven Seagal do some flowy wrist lock sequence, in a movie, and thinks that actually works against some dude who's cracked out or just maybe having the worst day of his life. Maybe he just caught his woman cheating, and he's out of his mind, mad and upset and crazy and smashing stuff up. I mean, I feel for him, but I still got to stop him.
Yeah.
I can't let him harm the public. I can't let him harm other people. And so if I got to get on that dude's back and choke him out, I can't have some senator who's never even been in a fist fight in their entire life tell me that was unnecessary or that was excessive. Like, that's probably the most cool thing I could do to that guy.
Yeah.
I would rather be choked out than tased any day of the week, or even pepper sprayed. But that's the thing. It's just, it's a tough place to be, because I understand the scrutiny and I welcome it. But on the other side of it is, I just wish we could have the scrutiny conducted by people who have a clue. Like if you were to tell me, like you train jujitsu, if you were to tell me like, hey man, I want to take a look at your use of force, I'd be like, cool, because you're going to know exactly what I'm doing. But if I have somebody who's spent their career sitting in an office in Congress somewhere, never been in a fight, and any fighting they need to do gets handled by dudes that are well armed, standing nearby, are they really going to know what they're looking at?
Exactly.
Are they, and so that's where it kind of gets, for me, that's where it gets a little like, okay, like, yes, scrutinize away, man. I have no issues. Like, follow me. I have no problem wearing a body cam. You know, I got nothing to hide, you know. But at the same time, though, allow me to explain why things went the way they went on that body cam footage, you know, and give me the leeway of saying, like, it's not easy to control somebody. It's not easy to pin somebody down and put handcuffs on them, or even just pin them down until they chill. You know, I've been in those situations where I just, you know, you break up a fight, you know, and you get the aggressor off and you hold him down until he gets himself together. And then you go, hey, man, anybody going to press charges here? You know, because it's a fight, right? Nobody wants to press charges. All right, man. Well, you guys have a good night, you know.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I might end up in trouble for that.
Yeah.
You know. So what are my options?
Yeah, that's something we've been wanting to bring on, either existing police officers, like current police officers, or former, because we have a lot of friends here in Boise that we have a few friends here in Boise that are police officers, and I grew up in a family of police officers here in Idaho, and like Kevin and I both know that there's good cops. There's a lot of good cops,
for sure,
and I'm sure there's some shitbag bad ones too. That's gonna happen to anything, but I think it's important for people to hear from the good ones and give them a different perspective, because there's some people, depending on where they live, maybe all they deal with is shitheads. But like growing up here, the cops were always really cool. Yeah, for the most part.
Well, I mean, think about, a lot of it's a society. It's sociological, right? Like if you look at Japan, those motherfuckers are still disciplined as fuck. You know, if you catch someone littering on the sidewalk there, people would check that motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
You know, and now in the States, where most of us are raised to be entitled, you can't tell me what to do or how to behave. And so as soon as a cop who's maybe just normal as fuck pulls you over, is like, hey, do you know why I pulled you over? And they're threatened because, like, you're basically talking to me like I'm an idiot, or like I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm doing something wrong. It's just the fact that people react the wrong way, and they even politicians refuse to make them take accountability for that. No, it's the officer's fault. He should have been nicer. I don't know. Maybe that person needs some fucking character development, you know. But no one wants to address the hard route. The hard route is fixing character development, because then you have to go back to the educational system and shitty fucking dads and everything else, you know, like it's you'd have to fix a lot of things. But the easy route is just to blame a police officer. Oh yeah, he's a prick. Yeah, fuck him, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like you said, there are guys that are shitheads, and if anybody hates those guys, it's us. You know, because they taint the entire profession. Like, I worked my ass off to always be in shape, to always represent well, to always, like, if I'm in uniform, your first use of force is presence, right? Officer presence is use of force. And the easiest way to illustrate that is, how do you drive when a cop's behind you, right? Like, their presence forced you to adapt your behavior. And so when I show up on a scene, I always wanted to look like and handle myself and carry myself in a way that made the people that called 911 feel like they got the right officer, you know. And I always wanted to be the one that, if my family called 911, I want somebody like me to show up. You know, I want somebody that's dialed in and squared away. And nothing annoys guys like me. And I'm not the only one. I mean, dudes influenced me to be like that. You know, other officers were like, hey man, this is how we handle ourselves. This is what we do. This is how we carry ourselves. So I was influenced by and mentored to be that way. And so there's nothing more annoying, to put it lightly, than an officer who doesn't carry themselves in that way. And if you can imagine how intolerant those of us that are like me feel towards the guy that's a slob, the guy that doesn't take it serious, the guy who doesn't dig in and find out what really happened here on this call, and just wants to blow it off, just wants to be late, like, those guys annoy us. So you can only imagine what we feel towards the guys who shouldn't be on the job, who like we can't wait to catch that dude screwing up, you know, because now it's like, hey man, you got to go. You know, you need to be gone before you become an issue that makes national news.
Yeah.
You know, because now we're all indicted,
Yeah.
because of this one idiot. And so, man, yeah, there was never any mercy for those dudes.
Yeah.
It's like him,
the way it should be, like, and I think that's in any profession. If you
Yeah.
have someone who doesn't take pride in their work or even just do a good job, they should be scrutinized for that and taken care of. But I'm sure it's a little harsher and a little bigger of a deal when you're a police officer, because you could be dealing with life or death or whatever. But I know we had a few weeks ago, like a month ago, we had a officer involved shooting here, and I guess they pulled a guy over. The guy got out with a knife, got the police officer in the face with the knife, and the other police officer mowed him down real quick. He died. The police officer that got stabbed survived, thank God.
Right.
And I saw it on the news for 2 days, and then I haven't heard anything about it.
Right.
So it was, which is good, because I mean, obviously he was getting attacked. The guy got what's coming to him.
Yeah.
And I drive past where that happened almost every day, and people have like a memorial and stuff set up for the guy. It sucks. Anybody loses their life.
Sure.
But I mean, when you go at a police officer with a weapon, what do you expect is going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. You take all my options away from me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just it's like you said, any profession you want to do to the best of your ability. I don't care if I'm turning wrenches, in an oil change place. I want to rock. I want to be the guy. Like we all do. Like I want to be the guy that the boss looks at and goes, "Hey, man, you mind doing, changing the oil on my family car, because I know you do the best job." And the difference, I think, really is that with police officers, firefighters, even nurses and docs, right? And there's that element of public trust. Like the public trusts you with this enormous amount of power and responsibility. Don't mess it up, and don't do something that tarnishes all the rest of us. So I wish the public knew that part of it. I wish the public knew more about that side of it, where there are officers that just do not want that, do not want those guys that bring even the chance of that on us. We don't want them, like I don't want that guy on my call.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with that guy. And it's not, nobody's protecting those guys. Nobody's looking out for them. We want them gone, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much easier would policing be if those guys weren't around?
Yeah.
Like what if, imagine like a perfect world where the public knew that every officer was above reproach.
Mm-hmm.
How much easier would policing be? Like if they knew, like, hey, this is what happened. This is why I made this call. This is why I did what I did. And the public knew, well, then that's absolutely 100% correct. These guys, their integrity is without question. Their ethics are without question. We're good with it. I mean, how much more easy would it be because it's like, Peel's principles, the guy from England, who's kind of the father of community-oriented policing, I think it was back in the 1800s, he said, we police at the public's consent, and that's the bottom line. I mean, there's times, the city I worked in was close to 200,000 people. There were nights where we'd have 12 guys, on patrol. How are we going to hold, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just a pure numbers game, man. If the public suddenly decides they've had enough of our shit, what are we going to do about it? And, so we police at the public's consent. We police with their permission,
What was it? So I heard you on a different podcast talking about when you were an officer, you lived in like a house, like right in the middle of the inner city or something.
Yeah. So what they do is they find an at-risk neighborhood, and based on crime stats, they will put you there. So they'll rent a house and you live in the house, and then you're expected to be a liaison between city resources and that neighborhood. So you kind of have to, it's a really delicate game. You have to get all of the community activists in those areas and all the community groups in those areas, as well as the city resources, like it's crazy as it sounds, like the water department or public works, you know, the guys that plow the streets and all that kind of, like, get all those guys together and get everybody on the same page. And it's kind of the broken windows theory was what was behind that, which is, I don't know if are you guys familiar with broken windows theory?
Mm-mm.
No.
At all?
Mm.
All right, yeah, it's a law enforcement thing, but basically, it's if you put a car on the street unharmed and you leave it there, you just abandon it, just leave it parked there for a couple weeks, nothing will happen. But if you break a window in that car, by the end of the week, that car will be completely vandalized
Makes
because
sense.
now you've kind of made that kind of like Lord of the Flies thing, right? You know, like you've made it okay to go ahead and vandalize and kind of go to the baser instincts of our human nature. And so the way we operated under that theory was if a house is run down, the yard's overgrown, the sidewalks are crumbling and destroyed, there's graffiti everywhere, all these things, we need to fix it. We need to make it so that this is the neighborhood that the people that live in the neighborhood are proud of. And that they then take ownership of that neighborhood, because again, back to policing at the consent of the people, I can't be everywhere at once, but if I have 100 people in this neighborhood who suddenly care about everything that happens in the neighborhood, they want the streets to be clean, they want their kids to be able to walk home from school without being harassed by gangbangers or the threat of a drive-by, um, or whatever it may be, then now I've got literally an army of people working with me for the greater good of this neighborhood. And then if we can get enough of these neighborhoods happening throughout the town or throughout the city, then we're going to turn the city around. We're going to make a difference. And that's so that was the premise of that program. And I was really proud to work in it. And I was in it for 5 years. And we did some good work. We had over 500 kids go through our after school programs. We did I found out some kids, I never knew about this until I was in that program. There's kids that they'll eat their last meal Friday at school lunch. That'll be their last meal, man, until Monday school breakfast.
Man,
so, right, yeah, it's really terrible to think, in the United States this happens, but it does. And so these kids Saturday, Sunday, they're kind of on their own. And when you look at that problem, and it's like Kevin said, like there's no father around, there's no family structure, and so these kids are kind of left to raise each other. And how does that turn out? Well, for anybody, like we turned out the way we turned out because we had mentors and parents and family and adults in our lives that were like, hey dude, don't do that. Or sometimes not that gentle, but kept us out of trouble. And if you have kids raising kids, and then on top of that, these kids are hungry, like literally hungry, they're gonna make do. They're gonna figure it out. And especially when we understand violence happens for 3 reasons, right? Like it's either some sort of social dominance, right? Like typical bar fight, or whatever it might be. But then there's violence for acquisition. There's violence because you have something and I need it or I want it. And the third is just the psycho, violence just because they get off on violence. And that's so small a percentage, we really don't have to worry about it. But when you have kids who come up, the only way they can get a meal on the weekend is if they take it.
Yeah.
What's that telling that kid? And then when that kid's 18, if he's not dead or in prison already, now we got to deal with him.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, how about we intercept this when they're 8, 9, 10 years old and show them a better way? And so fortunately, I had some awesome support, just amazing people from the neighborhood who would never accept credit for anything. I mean, I had a guy one year, he worked in a meat processing, he managed a meat processing plant in Chicago. he talked to his boss, and they donated every year for every major holiday. They would donate anywhere from 50 to 150 full meals,
Oh
like
wow.
turkey, the whole thing. So I just had to, and through my program, I kind of knew, situations. And so we were able to just, kind of like Secret Santa type thing, you know what I mean? Just kind of ding dong ditch, and leave a whole box of and a meal for these folks, on their doorstep. And things like that, man. It just, when you have the community working together with the resources that we can bring through the city, it's amazing, man. We had like Public Works would bring in a dumpster, and we called it spring cleanup, fall cleanup. They would bring in a dumpster, same thing on that broken windows theory. We drop that dumpster right at the corner of, like an intersection, and we would just start at one end of that street and go to the other and just clean that block up, man. And we tell people like, hey, if you want to get rid of stuff, you got the stuff in your yard, we're gonna throw it in the dumpster, you know. I mean, you got to take ownership. You got to come out here and help us, but
Yeah.
we're here to help and clean the graffiti off and all that stuff. And it's amazing, I had one kid say to me one time, he said, "Man," he goes, "my neighborhood looks like those neighborhoods you see up on the north end now, which is a more gentrified, area of town." And he's like, "Yeah, our neighborhood's starting to kind of look like that now." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, man, how's that feel?" He's like, "Good."
Mhm.
It feels good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, it's like if I only give you if I only gave you vanilla ice cream, you might think that's good, and that's all you ever got. But if I gave you a banana split, you might be like, holy Jesus,
Mhm.
Mhm.
like this is way better. If I let you live in a neighborhood where pit bulls run free, nothing against pit bulls, but you know what I mean? Like they're
Mhm.
just untethered, roaming the streets, and they're attacking little kids and stuff. And there's drive-bys, and there's prostitutes, and there's all kinds of and drug dealers and drug addicts and everything else. And that's what you see all the time. And you just think that's what I deserve, because this is where I live. And up on these other neighborhoods, maybe they're just better off, or people care more about them than they do about us. And so that's why our neighborhood is a shithole.
Mm.
We can turn this around, but we got resources, man. We can come in here and make your neighborhood just as nice, but you got to take some ownership,
Yeah.
and you got to help me. um Man, a month later, man, people are in it, dude. They buy in. They see that you mean it. They see that you're going to follow through. They see that you're going to do it, and then they buy you out there sweating. They see you out there, you know, doing what it takes to make the neighborhood better. And they come in and they join. And then now they know, like, hey, we could have a nice neighborhood.
Mhm.
Like we could have a nice place to live, a place where we don't have to worry about where our kids sleep, so they don't get hit by an errant round during some sort of drive-by or something. And once they buy in, man, it really starts to build momentum and change the neighborhoods. So yeah, that was the resident officer program, and we did some good work, man. We did some real good work.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like growing up here, we we've always had a pretty low crime rate here, and
sure,
and a lot of police. We have I don't know how many police officers we have here, but it's always seemed like there's
yeah,
plenty. There's plenty of them.
Yeah.
sure,
And it's funny. My wife has family down in like L.A. and
yeah,
anytime they've come here, like they'll be speeding and stuff, and I'm like, hey, you don't want to do that here. Our cops do
yeah.
not have that much to do, and so they're looking for stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
They will pull you over if you're going like 5 over. It's not like LA where you can get away with it.
yeah, right.
But I mean, that's a good problem to have, and we're
Oh
growing.
yeah,
We're growing, and the population's getting bigger and bigger, and with that's going to come crime and come other things as well.
sure.
Boise's managed to stay pretty clean and pretty nice, uh, and hopefully it continues to stay that way
Yeah.
because I like the growth. I see the good and bad with it.
Yeah,
I enjoy better restaurants, better coffee shops, stuff like that we didn't have when we were younger. But I kind of wish it would slow down a little because this place is blowing up.
yeah, yeah. I think everywhere has kind of that spurt, and then it chills,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But You guys just need rougher winters. That's what it is. Rougher winters, man. It scare people off.
This has been the most mild winter I think I've ever seen. This has been beautiful sunshine, and I think we've got snow like twice, and it was barely anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was walking around today in like t-shirt and jeans. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it was not that way when I left Chicago.
Yeah.
Miserable would be the weather forecast for Chicago right now.
Yeah, that's what I've never been back that way, but I've heard it gets pretty miserable in the wintertime.
Yeah, if you can visit in the spring or fall, that would be a great time because Chicago's a cool city, a lot of cool things to see, but not in the summertime because it's claustrophobic. You know, it's so the humidity is so heavy, and they call it the Windy City, but there's no wind blowing in the summer.
Yeah,
and but spring and fall, it's actually it's beautiful. It's gorgeous, and there's so many cool things to do there. Just amazing little town or city.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. What do you think, like when people say like police officers, all of them should have, some jujitsu background or some, do you agree with that? Do you think it'd be better off?
100%. Yeah. I've said it forever that every officer should be blue belt. There's no reason why they couldn't be. If you think about it, most places require a degree at this point. So if you start training in jujitsu, when you start studying criminal justice, you start working on getting your degree, you start training at the same time. By the time you graduate and can start your job search, you're a blue belt. That's 4 years, and you're a blue belt. And then by the time you get on the job, it might take a year to get hired, and go through the process and all that stuff. And you get picked up somewhere. Well, man, now you're like a 1 or 2 stripe blue belt on your way to being a purple belt. You're not going to run into anything on the street that's going to give you any trouble compared to what you encounter every day in your gym.
Yeah.
And you're going to know how to control a person. I mean, the whole art of jujitsu is how to submit people using the least amount of energy as possible, the least amount of athleticism as possible. And so when you do have to hit that nitrous button and use athleticism and speed and all that stuff, it's usually against somebody who's equal or a little higher than you in skill and all that stuff. On the street, you're just not going to run into that guy. Most of the guys you run into on the street you guys have probably seen them. They got beer muscles. They're not fighters. They're not athletes for the most part. And also they're under the influence. They're not at 100%. And you're as a jiu-jitsu guy or gal, you're going to be, even your 90% is going to be greater than the average person's 100%. So, even if you're running it, say you were in court all day, you got no sleep, you haven't eaten, maybe a little dehydrated. So you're at 70%, you're still better than the average person. Oh yeah, man, we froze up.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. You're back now. We're good.
Are you there?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I would imagine too.
All right. I don't know what we lost.
We only missed you for like 2 seconds. I think it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
But I would imagine too, like they would help with handling stress too, doing jiu-jitsu and being a police officer. Because I mean, I'm no expert by any means. I've done jiu-jitsu for like 2 years, on and off a couple times. So, but I realize how much better I am at handling high stress situations. Because nothing I go through in my day compares to having somebody on my back trying to put me to sleep.
Exactly. That's the thing. And I mean, you've been probably stuck underneath somebody's mount. You've had somebody in like side control or knee ride, just trying to crush the life out of you. And then you get on a call and somebody's, talking gibberish or whatever. And in your head, you're just kind of laughing. Like, this is nothing compared to what I just was doing 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
And also, like you said, the stress relief aspect of it, the mental health aspect of it is so important. Getting on that mat and just being able to work and exert yourself and strive against another person with equal and opposing will. It's really important. And and it rubs off all those rough edges. All the benefits of jujitsu that regular folks feel, it's even more important for a person that's going to be in law enforcement. It really is. And also, here's the other thing with jujitsu. Jujitsu is an activity that calls for health. You might start jujitsu in poor condition, but you get into better condition first off through the actual act of doing jujitsu. But then also, what I noticed with students is they start drinking more water because, hey man, I was rolling, I cramped, and I had to stop, or I gassed out and I had to stop. And it's like, man, you're not really gassed out, you're just dehydrated. You're not you're not fueling yourself properly. And so then they start getting into how to eat properly, and they start getting into, hydration and stretching, and then they want to do some strength work, and it's just one of those things where it just starts this momentum going where they become a healthier person because they're doing a healthy activity,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why it's so beneficial as well. So many agencies are offering incentives for guys to get in shape and do the fitness qualification a couple times a year and do all these other things, and I'm thinking that, yeah, I get what they're trying to do, but rather than tell this guy, hey, you need to lose 30 pounds or we're going to medical you out, how about you just get them to go to jiu-jitsu, and through the process of a healthy activity they'll begin to become healthy because they need to be healthy to do this activity that they're going to fall in love with.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like if I want to come in and I want to be able to roll for an hour at open mat, well, guess what? I need to do some cardio, probably need to hydrate, and probably need to eat some good nutrient dense food that day.
Yeah.
And right there, I'm healthy. Like it wasn't some, 42-day fitness challenge or anything like that. It's just, it becomes a lifestyle that they can sustain,
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Kevin's way better versed on a lot of that than I am. He's like my go-to guy when it comes to diet and exercise and everything, because he was a gym owner and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
But just from him, I've learned a ton of stuff on diet and all that.
Nice.
Yeah, number one thing is just to cut your fucking sugar out.
Yeah, that's
like,
poison.
You're saying right there, just like get rid of your sugar, and then we can approach everything else. But yeah, that sugar first.
Yeah, that stuff's poison, man. The link of from sugar to cancer and all the other things, it's just amazing when you start looking into that stuff. It's like, man,
I know, and I feel like, not to be like too like hand wavy here, but I feel like a lot of people are paid off to just not say anything or say it's not that bad. Well, it's not really sugar, it's meat. Like that was in a couple different documentaries. It's not sugar, it's meat. Like, get fucked, because real scientists completely disagree with that.
Right.
Yeah. Aren't you? Are you vegetarian? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you were.
Yeah.
That would be so hard for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I went through a period. So, when I was doing strongman training, it was a period of about 8 years that I only ate meat and eggs. That's all I ate. I didn't eat anything but meat and eggs. So I guess what they call a carnivore diet. Like my breakfast would be a big bowl of meat and all that good stuff. And then I had the aneurysm, and I had migraines for 24 hours a day for about 3 months.
Ooh.
And because I had what they call intracranial swelling. So my brain was pushing out against my skull as a result of the aneurysm. And my neurologist, she kept saying, hey, just cut red meat out for a little while and let's see what happens. And because I had no sugar in my system. I basically had a restart because I was in the hospital in critical care. So I basically had a restart. And so I cut out red meat and the headache went away. Within 2 weeks, I was off the headache medication. And it's hard for me to be a little bit in, like it's hard so I cut out everything. I cut out chicken, all that stuff. I just cut everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't really like an ethical thing on my part. I was careful to point that out to people because I don't want them to think that there's any kind of crusade on my part. It was just, man, my head hurt, you know, I was in pain.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing left to try. We had tried everything. I was on 18 medications, 22 actually. I was on 18 preventatives, and then I had 4 that I was to take in case of emergency. Like if it got too great and there was nobody to drive me to the ER to get the shots that I needed, then I could take these medications until I could get somebody to get me to the ER. So having that, being up against that wall, made me reconsider some things, and I thought, well, okay, I'll try it. I'm desperate. You know?
Yeah, totally.
And,
I just figured I'd bring up that you were a vegetarian before Kevin went on a shit talk about vegetarians.
No, I don't.
Well, man, that's cool. I get it, dude.
I don't.
You know, here's the thing. So John Joseph, I don't know if you guys know who John Joseph is. He's a lead here with the Cro-Mags and all that. And he's a vegan, plant-based. He hates the word vegan because he's like, vegans make it so hard for me to ever talk to anybody about how I eat or what I eat, and it's the same for me. You know, I didn't do it for any ethical reason, anything like that. I did it because I was in pain. And now I just continue to do it because once you're in that kind of pain, you're afraid to ever do that again, you know, like man, I don't even want to take a chance, you know. And I mean, it's weird, it messes with you a little bit because I mean, you know how like when you walk out on a cold day and you get that first, you know, intake of really cold air, how your head will kind of start to hurt a little bit. Man, when there was a couple times where that's happened, I actually kind of had like a moment of anxiety where I was like, whoa, what's, like, come on, man, not again, you know. And so that's where I'm at with all that. But I do get it because there are people, I get sick of hearing about it from people, you know, and then, you know, I'm just like, it's just how I choose to eat. It might not benefit other people. My brother eats completely the opposite of me.
Yeah.
You know, like he is a meatitarian, you know, and it's just, you know, I think you got to do what works for you, you know, and I think there's a lot of ways to kind of get to the top of that mountain, and there are ways that might be more efficient. There might be, I might be more healthy if I were eating more red meat or something of that nature. But for me, it's just, I don't ever want to be in that kind of pain again, man.
Yeah, you have to do what's right for you.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I get if I'm having sugar, gluten, or just too many processed carbs, and even if it's just bread or rice in general, like I start getting headaches. It's just the inflammation of the brain.
Yeah, right.
And that's why I'm on, like, you know, testosterone replacement and you know, like vitamin D supplements, stuff like that, to keep the inflammation down, because it's like blast injuries and everything, right? So and so like I'm on this protocol just to keep the inflammation down, because I was on, you know, sumatriptan and all that other shit for migraines, and I haven't had to take it, you know. But I do also moderate my meat. You know, I'm doing right now 2 servings a day, 5 days a week. The other 2 days, it's like 1 serving and a protein shake. You know, the days where I don't really need to eat a lot, eat like twice a day if I'm not working out, right? But yeah, no, so it's different for everybody, because I mean, regardless, I guess, because I have friends who are, you know, vegans or vegetarians, you know, and I don't bias it anyone way. My bias is the documentaries, like just clowning fucking documentaries, because they're all incorrect essentially, because they're trying to sell something, you know. But it's like, regardless, yes, too much meat and the hormones of putting meat, if you're buying cheap meat, is fucking your hormones up, which means messing your brain up, your chemistry up. Eat too many plants and greens, right? Vegetables are plants, and plants protect themselves from the environment, so they create oxidative stress in your brain. Oxidative stress is the precursor, right, to dementia, Alzheimer's, stuff like that, right? So it's just about moderation and everything. We can't just eat, you know. And that's why with greens, that's why with vegetarians, I think it's awesome to nerd out on it, to like be like micronutrient profiling, so we're not having to just slam tons of vegetables we don't need to be having every day, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But but I'm totally down with that, like, for sure, like vegans, because I think most of my diet is vegetables. I just see I'll eat meat is with it, you know. So yeah, I don't want to come off as biased or anything.
Yeah, for sure. No, man, I get it. And you know, I mean, I've experimented with every possible diet, and I think it's like you said, at the end of the day, eliminate the processed stuff.
Yeah.
And you'll be so much happier. You'll feel so much better. I don't care what it is that you're eating. Just eliminate as much processed stuff as possible. You know, try to eat quality meats. If you're going to eat meat, like my friend Craig Douglas, he eats high quality meats, you know, and he's noticed a difference. You know, a lot of my other friends too, you know, they'll, you know, they eat one meal a day, maybe two. And so it's a little easier on them, you know, to have that one meal be something spectacular, you know. And but yeah, there's so much to that. I think the real issue is going to come back to processed stuff and in processed stuff, particularly sugars.
Yeah, I know my wife here a couple months ago, she went on this kick of buying organic everything that we eat, and I felt the difference.
Yeah.
And it might be in my head, maybe, because I'm thinking, oh, it's organic, it's healthy, but I feel like I really felt, and that was with, you know, milk and eggs and everything we have. It was, she was buying all organic, and I feel better. It almost feels cleaner. I don't know if that makes sense.
You're cutting out more sugar. It's maybe, if it's not gluten free, maybe it's less gluten dense, because gluten that we've been manufacturing now is just intense. I forget the guy on Joe Rogan said, but it was like something like 200 times more strong than it used to be or something. But anyway, like, yeah, if you're cutting down on those things and the sugars, then I would imagine you would feel better, have more energy, testosterone goes up, you know, your thyroid functions better, you know. Yeah,
I tried that carnivore diet a while back, and like the first 3 or 4 days I felt really good, but I should have looked into it a little more. I don't have a gallbladder. And and man, it tore me up. It was bad. I was about a week and a half into it, and I was hurting. And
no doubt.
It was bad. So I ended up doing some research after that, and I read an article about, like, if you don't have a gallbladder, this is probably not the diet for you. And it was
it's tough about the gallbladder.
That messed me up pretty bad. But
no doubt. Yeah, I think that, you know, there's so much, and I think the other thing too is people, you know, like Kevin was saying, you know, with the vitamin D and that kind of zinc, all those things that help you with naturally, you know, generating testosterone, keeping those levels up. People forget the role of hormones in all of this stuff, and the role of insulin in all of this stuff. And you have to eat in a way that balances that. You know, you have to eat in a way that plays towards your strengths, and that keeps that at a higher level. And once you get on that train, once you start researching that and eating in that manner, it's really hard to go off of that. You know, because you feel so good. You know, just
if you feel good sober, then why the fuck are you gonna go start a bunch of coke?
Yeah, exactly.
Like basically what you're doing, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, why would I derail my train? We're heading in a good direction. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
So how long did you say you were in Boise for?
I'm going to be here for 3 weeks.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be in town for 3 weeks, doing whatever they need me to do.
Yeah, so. I wish I would have known that earlier. We might have been able to make this work where we could have done this in person.
Oh yeah,
that blew my mind yesterday when you messaged me and said that you were flying into Boise. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
and I know I've seen you, because like I said, I follow you on Instagram and stuff. I've seen you here with, you know, doing stuff with SBG and all that. So that's cool. Yeah, actually, I just most recently listened. You were on the Top Mount guys, their podcast.
Yeah,
which they've kind of become friends of this podcast.
Good.
We know some mutual friends.
Yeah,
good. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah. Al is awesome. Those guys are awesome, man.
Yeah, I'd like to sit down and talk with them one of these days, and we've talked a little bit about it. Maybe when we can cross paths somewhere in there. But they seem like pretty cool dudes.
Yeah, they're way cool. They're awesome. They love jiu-jitsu, and they'll do anything they can to kind of promote the goodwill of all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So they're good.
My jiu-jitsu coach's wife does stuff with them. She's what does she say she does? She's not sponsored by him, but it's
like is endorsed.
I don't know. She does something
endorsed
with them.
By?
Yeah, and so that's how I found out about them, and they seem like
cool.
pretty good people.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I guess we can wrap this up, man. Let you get on with your evening. You've been traveling and stuff. So,
man.
Oh, you're frozen.
Talk to me, man. It's been fun.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe next time you're in town, we can sit down and do this in person.
Yeah, I'd love to, man. That would be awesome.
Yeah. All right. Cool, man. Well, I'm going to keep you on here after I stop it for a second, just ask you a couple questions, but we do appreciate you coming on.
All right, thanks.
Heck yeah.
So